Welcome to the Ops Experts Club. If you're at all interested in anything we talk about here in this episode, go ahead and check out the description down below and click any of the links there. Or if you just want to know more about us, click the links below. Now on to the episode.
Ops Experts Club, Terryn Turner.
Yes, that's it. That's today.
That's a wrap. Man, Terryn Turner's on the field and it's going to be amazing. Thank you for joining me today, Terryn Turner, for the Ops Experts Club.
Thanks for having me today. Yeah, it's not very often I get to be with you here.
Only every week. Ops Experts, thanks for joining us. Man, I feel like we don't ever start just by thanking you for being here. If you run a business for an entrepreneur that can be a little crazy, this is the spot for you to come every single week to get good tricks and tips from an ops consulting agency that does this all the time. People that come in alongside of businesses, helping them be more efficient, help them to think with the end in mind, setting up frameworks, KPIs, metrics, and really helping people roll out operations at a large level for the last dozen plus years. This is your spot. So thank you for joining us again this week for Ops Experts Club. Terryn Turner.
Yes.
I thought we could talk about today something that most businesses do a lot of, and that is recruiting. You know, whether that's you have somebody that's leaving, you're trying to find, you're trying to backfill, whether that's you've realized that you've scaled to a spot, you're going to need more help. I think a lot of businesses end up recruiting and looking for people to hire. We do a lot of that here at the Collab team. We have quite a few active projects going right now of recruiting projects. And I think we've got some really good tricks and tips to keep people getting to the end, maybe thinking with the end in mind. Like if you're looking for somebody, I really think starting with the right beginning is really important to be able to end with the right result. So I thought maybe we could talk about tricks and tips to get to the best result when it comes to recruiting. How does that feel to you?
I think that feels like something that we can definitely talk about.
Dude, I think we could talk the heck out of that right now. Okay, so Let's kick off with this. What I see happen a lot of times is people hire out of haste, right? They're feeling overwhelmed. So either somebody's leaving, they need to backfill it, or everybody's overwhelmed. They're trying to solve for their team complaining. And so they just like hustle out a recruiting project, right? They just post something on LinkedIn, post something on Indeed, throw something on social media. Hey, we need help with this, right? Without really fleshing out, are you sure that's what you need help with? You know, maybe it's an old job description or it's half baked or you haven't read it even all the way through since last time we posted for something like this. And you just launch it out there. And then what we find a lot of times with recruiting projects like that is you get half baked results, right? We'll end up 2-3 weeks into the process, bringing back candidates that, man, this isn't who you were looking for. And then you're frustrated as a business owner with the kind of people that are coming back when really, if we had just started with the end in mind of, hey, is this the kind of person that is this post still relevant? Is this job description still accurate? Is this still the kinds of things you want this person to do? Are we clear on that before you go out and start hunting them? Because I think job title matters, right? We've talked about that in past episodes, being careful the caliber of person you're going to bring back and their pay expectation based upon title. Don't use the word manager unless you really mean managing, because people are going to come back expecting to get paid higher, right? And then also be really clear in the job description that you're posting, because otherwise what you get is a lot of scramble. And, unless you're talking about eggs, scramble isn't good. Saying, Terryn?
I know what you're saying.
Cool. What else we got, Terryn? What other things would you say are good tricks and tips to keep people on straight and narrow?
I mean, you kind of briefly touched on there's really two reasons why you're hiring. Somebody left and you got to backfill them. You're growing and you need someone new. So I think if we just split that up real quick, a lot of times I'm working with people who are growing and they need somebody new and they can afford to hire people. They're successful now. And so it's not necessarily about budgets. It's about how do we do this successfully? And I'll see a few different mistakes people make. First one is they're not looking at the bigger picture. They are growing. So I like to start with, what is your future org chart look like? We build a current org chart, but then now let's start filling in with holes that you want to see filled at some point in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And usually that's going to be your mid-level leadership team that you're missing right now. It could also be other roles you want to introduce. Your finance person is going to grow into their own department. Your customer support people are going to start growing. Your sales team is going to get even bigger. So what are those roles? And now that you can see the future, you're actually going to start hiring not just for that one specific position, but you're going to be looking at something bigger of, okay, I might be looking at somebody that can just fulfill these tasks. But will they have the mindset to at some point grow into a manager with me within the next 12 months? That would be 5 to 10K salary bump worth more then somebody is just going to be able to do tasks. So
because
you start seeing...
Because somebody's going to have to manage them, right? I think a lot of people don't think about that is like, yes, you need that help. But if you hire cheap, right, which a lot of people can be influenced to do, the danger of hiring cheap is usually that's a task taker. That's an order taker, right? And they're going to get stuck and they're going to need somebody to manage them. And who's going to manage them? Is it going to be you? Man, I hope not, because you probably are not the best manager. If you're making decisions. And so do you have somebody else in the org that can manage them? Or if you don't, that's okay. There's no heartburn in that, but maybe you should then be thinking about somebody who's a manager doer, right? Somebody that can do it and manage it, but also do it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's the second piece of advice is you'll hear complaints of they're managing too many people, but then they want you to go recruit somebody else they're going to have to manage. Right. They just need more tasks done. It's like, okay, well now you're wanting to manage even more people, even though you spend all day managing people. You can't increase your business revenue because you're burnt out. You can't be a good visionary anymore because you're just CEO all day. And so that's when you need to start thinking about that midline of, I'm not big enough to have like a dedicated manager, but if they're good enough and you hire them now, they're going to do it and manage it and build the process as you grow so that then they can bring people under them, under a process they know works, that they've built, that they can have success with, and they're self-managing and they're going to start managing people under them.
So good. So good. I think knowing a lot of visionaries, obviously we work with visionaries. That's all of our clients, right? We get hired most of the time by visionaries because oftentimes they hate operations, right? So they're like, who can just get in here and help me? And so I think when you've worked with the kind of people we've worked with, I mean, our testimony speaks for themselves, right? We've got to work with some really high profile thought leaders. So, a lot of times people come to us for that. And when they see what we've done, they're just like, will you just handle this? The danger can be, I think, is that visionary, we probably need just a little bit more of your time when it comes to, just like you were saying, Terryn, about org chart. And for visionaries, maybe they hear that and they're like, dear God, are we serious? I just told you I'm overwhelmed. I just told you we need help with this. Why do we need to look to the org chart? But the thing that I love about what you suggested with org chart is, visionaries, if you can get in your brain this one thought, and that is your most expensive line item on your P&L is probably your people, right? Like for most businesses, that's the case. You're spending the most on the people you're hiring. So you should get really crystal clear on what do you expect from each of the people that you've hired? And then that should dictate who you're hiring next, right? The kind of person you're hiring. And so if you can get really crystal clear on where does this person fit on the org chart, and are these people that are on the org chart, are we getting the best bang for the buck for the people that are on the org chart? And have they gotten stuck into slogging? Are they doing things that are quite frankly below their pay grade? And we should be factoring down that oftentimes can fuel what kind of hire you need or how we can delegate and elevate, right? How we can delegate down unnecessary tasks, elevate up everybody that's on the org chart currently. So as we create this new slot, likely we're hiring for somebody that maybe doesn't need to be, doesn't necessarily need a big pay bump or a big pay associated with them, but only because we've looked at the org chart first. And on every org chart, I would say is you want the 3 to 5 like KPIs, right? Key performance indicators for each one of those roles, right? So you know exactly what's expected out of each one of these people, which if you do that, then for the slot that you're creating, come up with 3 to 5 KPIs with that informs what you're actually posting. And that actually downstreams what we're going to actually hold them accountable for so that you can just have something that flows very simply. So I'm not saying like go spend a half-day planning session. I'm saying jump on with whoever handles your operations. If you don't have an operator that can handle that kind of stuff, like call us up. We'd love to help you. Like reach out. We'd love to help you with this, designing your org chart and making sure everybody has KPIs. We do that every week, week in, week out. Work with whoever you're working with typically to do this before you hustle out a hire, because the worst thing you can do is go hire somebody into a position that you're going to only end up frustrated with in the next 3 to 6 months and be paying more money than you're going to want to be paying. You're just increased your biggest line item by this next hire. Make sure it's a good spend. Make sure it's going to bring the result that you want.
Oh, yeah. And I know org chart sounds really boring, but it's really powerful because it's visual. And we get the complaint from our clients when we first start is they're managing everybody. Everybody goes to them with everything. It's like, all right, I'm going to do something for you. Build out an org chart, show them, say, hey, here's your people. Here's why they're going directly to you. You are the direct manager of all of these 15 people. Where else can they go? Yeah. You've given nobody authority or approval to make a decision above them. So if they're not making a decision and they have a question, there's nobody else for them to go to right now. And then they can finally see it and they can see the open roles that are supposed to be there of, oh, okay, we need decision makers and authority. We need other people who can triage before it gets to me.
I love that. And I think then the nice thing about when you do it that way is one of the other pro tips I would say, maybe we should call the show Recruiting Pro Tips, Terryn, or something along those lines. Because I do think another pro tip I would say is once you've taken it through the org chart, once you've associated KPIs with the role that you're going to go hire for, that makes it much easier for whoever your recruiter is to then identify how much should we be paying this person, right? Because if it's too obscure, if the role isn't really real, like if we're just like hodgepodging something together, sometimes it can be hard to figure out how much we should be paying that person. But whoever's handling your recruiting for you, whether you're doing that internal, whether you're sourcing it out to a recruiter, whether you hire a Collab team, we would love to help you with recruiting. Like our whole jam is like do some research first and put in the time to figure out how much should we be paying this person? What should be the range of pay for this person depending on their skill set and their experience? Because what we see a lot of people do oftentimes is just throw a random number at it, right? Maybe it's like a number they came out of the organization. Maybe it's historical data. They're holding on to old information in their head of what they paid somebody last time they hired for this, but that could not be relevant for the current climate that we're in or the current position that we're considering. And I think the better clarity you can get to on that number is the best. We had a client just this last week lob a recruiting request over to Terryn and say, hey, I think you should go hire. We need this, right? And I'm not sure that is what they really needed. And then on top of that, I think that we should be paying them this as a base rate. And it was a sales-based position. And when I saw that come across, I'm like, dear God, no. Like don't offer that as a base rate, not to a sales-based position. Like it's too much. You're going to create a lazy person because that's actually a really high number for most people, and they'll just not perform. Because why perform? Because it's a sales-based role. They can just fall back on their base. And I think that can be really dangerous. Terryn, do you want to talk about that just for a minute, about establishing what you think rate of pay should work and how that should work?
Yeah. I mean, rate of pay is tricky, like you said, location-based, online, in person. It's going to all be factors of it. Definitely a good thing that people do want to see isn't just how much they're going to make at the start, but what's it going to look like after that. And it's totally fine to provide that step in base over time. It's like, hey, introductory period, we're going to work you for 60 days at this rate. Here's your expectations by the end of those 60 days, and we're going to increase you into this rate. And that's a really great trial period for both you and the other person if you're unsure, especially if it's going to be something a lot higher paying. So that's a great opportunity to do that. Or 90 days is a classic review period. Yeah. And then an increase benefits can kick in after 90 days. They can be 1099 and transfer to employee after 90 days. Anything like that are just great ways to kind of make it a little bit risk averse.
Yeah, I love it. I love also creating like a pay scale, like that people can see this is how I earn more money here on my trajectory. I think a lot of us have like a customer journey that we put people through, right? We have an ideal escalation ladder that we're building people through on how they ascend, an ascension ladder when it comes to how they're going to grow with us, how they're going to buy more from us, how they're going to go deeper as a client. I think we need to do the same thing for our employees. Like here's the employee journey of how you can make more here by staying longer here, by gaining experience here, by continuing to grow your skills here. And the KPIs change with the change in the role, but the pay is commensurate. I also think it's really great to create caps, right? Hey, this is your range, this to this at this role, which means I'm never going to pay you more than this per hour, but I am going to give you incentives where you could make more than that after you cap out at your hourly pay, right? So really getting clear for your own organization, how much am I willing to pay for each one of these levels? It's okay for those to have caps, but then also consider how do I incentivize this person once they've hit their cap? Maybe they're not going to be a good candidate to level up to the next level. Not everybody is going to level up. That's just the reality of the deal. It's probably going to become kind of like a pyramid, right? Of less and less people are going to be towards the top as they grow up. So not everybody is going to be able to ascend within the pyramid of your organization, but you should enable people to be able to make more based on bonus-based incentives. And some of that can be like sales is a really easy one, right? But depending on what you sell, you get a piece of what you kill, right? But on the other side of it, there can be efficiency metrics that you really weigh out for operations-based roles. Like what's the end goal of this role? What would you like to see? And then how can I incentivize them to get there? Because I think that can be a really powerful tool as well.
Yeah.
We just did quarterly evals for the coffee shop down in Belize. Yeah, that's so
nice.
I opened the first drive-through coffee in the country of Belize 4 years ago, which has been awesome. We have 3 locations down there. But we just did quarterly reviews with the managers. And what we moved to is just a really metric way of determining bonuses associated with roles. And for us, what we did was 3 different sections where we assigned numbers to, and that was the ethos. How are they living to the ethos? Well, what's our bread and butter? Maybe that's your mission, vision, values, however you do it at your own business. But for us, the De Los Mayas ethos. We also put out a anonymous employee survey on how their managers were performing, right? So then there were scores that came back with that anonymously. And then I gave them a factor down below of excellence. Based on your 3 to 5 key duties, how do you feel like you've been showing up from an excellence perspective? Like, do you feel like you've been killing it? Do you feel like you've been sucking it? Do you feel like somewhere in between? And I made that a metric number. And then I got to rate them as well, right? So we got to have a conversation of how are they living up to the ethos? They rate themselves. I rate them. So I rate them. We let their people that they manage rate them. And then I put in an excellence factor of how well are you showing up in general to your 3 to 5 key duties? And from those 3 numbers added up, then they got a percentage of an incentive bonus, right? So it's like I gave them a max cap of, hey, let's call it $1,000. I gave them $1,000 potential, right? I added up these 3 numbers, and then based on those 3 numbers, there was a percentage of that incentive bonus they got to make. So what that gives them is incentive to be able to make more next time if they can raise their scores, right? And I think that anything that you can do like that for people. And the reason why I did that was because these managers are really towards the top of what I want to pay them per hour. I don't really want to keep raising an hourly rate on these managers, but I don't want to lose the ability for them to be inspired. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to make a bonus that's tied back to a metric that gives me ultimately what I want, right? I want them to live to the ethos. I want their people to be happy that are working for them. And I want to know that they're showing up with excellence in the job that they're given. So I think coming up with just a really easy metric way of why you bonus, when you bonus to get the results that you want.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Thank you, dude. It felt powerful. Man, it felt powerful when I did it. So if you're wondering for recruiting, I'd love to give you an asset. If you go to recruiting.opsexpertsacademy.com, we give you a great template for how we think you should be posting your job descriptions, a little blurb as well for how to do your posts. But it's a great asset. I think I give you a little video too, walking you through how it all works. So if you're just needing a starting point of how should I be doing recruiting, you can check it out there. If you're ever interested in us coming alongside you, we'd love to help you. Like if you have questions, you can just drop questions on social. Any of the opportunities you see us dealing with the Collab team or Ops Experts Club, we definitely want to do that for you. And I think that just thinking with the end in mind, so many entrepreneurs and visionaries can be very quick start, which means they jump at trying to solve a solution, become a quick solution so they can just get out of it. This is one of the ones that you want to put some pumping of the brakes in the middle of it. EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System, is really, really big on hire slow, fire fast, right? Like be really slow on who you're bringing in. Make sure you're bringing in the right people. And then once you've identified they're not the right person within your organization, like that's when you can let them go fast, but don't reverse that. Don't hire fast and then fire slow, which is what we see a lot of visionaries do, right? Like quick to hire and then probably hold on to them too long, right? That we should have let go of this person 6 months ago, but we've just been milking it because we're too nice. No. Like start with the end in mind, take some of these pro tips and really get the right people because that's what's key. Awesome. Terryn Turner. Amazing to have you on the show today. As always, you make an incredible co-host, not only incredibly handsome and a great dresser, but also you have very smart things to say. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
Ops Experts, thanks for joining us today for the show. I hope you found it insightful and we'll see you next week. Same place, same time here on Ops Experts Club.
See ya.